Hey.
All-pro wide receiver. He had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and he's Christian McCaffrey's dad. Let's welcome in Ed McCaffrey, the pride of Allentown Central Catholic in Pennsylvania. What's up, Ed? How you doing, man?
Go Vikings, baby. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
All right.
Yeah. First of all, let's jump into your new Rocky Mountain granola line. What do we got going there, Ed?
What? Well, we have the best tasting and healthiest granola you'll ever put in your mouth. That's what we have. We have our blueberry lemon sunrise. You know, if the sun was a lemon, you could take a bite out of it. That's what this tastes like. Absolutely delicious. You can find it by typing in McCaffrey, but then you'll get Christian highlights. And then if you add the word granola, McCaffrey granola, then you'll find the McCaffrey granola. So we're in the flavor business and the health business. So our goal is to make healthy food taste great. Who doesn't like granola? Everybody likes granola. And we make it taste great. Yeah, so hopefully you guys like it as well. We sell online, so you can buy it no matter where you live. We're in all 50 states.
There it is.
Christian's given his stamp of approval?
Yes, I think he especially likes the one with the lemon zest in it here. But we have golden cinnamon raisin and almond coconut cranberry crunch, and they're all very delicious and super healthy. And they're good for everyone. They're good for pro athletes because they're healthy, but they're good for anyone who wants to take some food with them during the day that they can tote around with them and have a healthy snack rather than eating junk food. I was going through what I was eating the other day at a game, because you go to games, you get hungry, and trust me, I grill and tailgate every weekend because we sell mustard and horseradish too. We make good food taste better on the weekends, and then throughout the week we try to eat healthy. We make healthy food taste great. But I added up, man, I must have consumed 5,000-6,000 calories just during the course of the day eating a bunch of junk food.
Right.
So for me, as I'm getting older, I'm not a pro athlete anymore, but I want to eat healthy and make sure the fuel I'm putting in my body is good for me. But I won't eat food that doesn't taste good. Life's too short for that, right? So,
yes.
So that's our goal. Healthy food tastes great. I send cases of this to all my kids. Luke's eating it out in Washington. Christian's eating it in San Francisco. Max is coaching for the Chargers. He's eating it, and they pass it out to their teammates. And Dylan, my son Dylan, works with me. He's helping me grow McCaffrey brand. So it's been really fun working with him.
There it is.
All right, It's the Rocky Mountain granola line. And also, it sounds like it's a great thing to just throw in your golf bag. Have it in your golf bag when you go golfing. Appreciate it.
It is. We also, we're in a lot of stuff now. We have our protein bites, which have a little more protein in them. They're really good in the golf bag because they kind of heat up if it's hot out.
Sure.
Tastes better when they're heated up a little bit. We have mustard and horseradish, and in a month, I don't even want to show. We're going to have a little hot sauce.
Nice.
There it is. Hot sauce we're launching in a month. So we've grown like crazy the last couple of years. You get to be really creative when you combine flavors and ingredients to come up with food products. And so that's the most fun part for me. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I try to give that to Dylan, but the creative part of it and the taste testing and the meeting the wonderful people that work at our facilities and our manufacturing plants has been a lot of fun. It's like being part of a team again. So for me, it's more than just the food. It's being part of something, working with other people, just like football, right? You're working with other people to do something, be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, appreciate that. Ed McCaffrey joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's Christian's father. He's also a 3-time Super Bowl champion. Let's get into some Niners. Starting with last year, they got drilled by injuries. How surprised were you that they were able to have a successful season? They were 12-5 and won a playoff game, and they were really banged up last year.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I think they did a great job with what they had. They're really well coached. They had a lot of young players that stepped up and contributed and got some really good experience and played well to help them win games. And they had Christian for every game, which they didn't have the year before. And that was a big difference maker. So between guys stepping up that were younger players to fill in, because look, there's not a lot of Fred Warners. There's not a lot of Nick Bosas, right? Like, you don't find those guys laying around. So guys had to step in and play at a high level for the Niners to win. And I think that gave some guys some experience that will be better off for it this year. But it does help to have Christian in the backfield. I think that was the biggest difference between the year before and last year. They even went through a quarterback change, and that was crucial, that Mac Jones played well when he had to come in and play for Brock Purdy, right? And they didn't miss a beat. So, they kept enough of their talented players on the field with some great coaching to continue to win, even with a quarterback change. And that speaks to the level of guys they bring into the building who, all of which are not starters, who can step in and play like a starter when they get their opportunity.
And I got to ask you this, and first I got to give your son the ultimate kudos because you played the game at a high level, 3 Super Bowl rings. My partner and I are on the sideline, And a couple years ago, McCaffrey, your son, was hurt, didn't finish the season. And then he comes back, plays 17 games, over 400 carries, just an Iron Man. And I'm telling my partner from afar, is that a good thing that he got 400, carry or touches? How do you look at that with where your son's at in his career? Is it a gladiator thing to where, dude, just give me the ball? Or do you like, man, that might be a little too much, 400 total touches. You don't want that to happen again. How do you see that?
Well, I look at it like this. As a football player, you do what you need to do to help your team win games. So if your coach wants you to play 150 snaps, that's what you play. If your coach wants you to play 500 snaps, that's what you do. The coach has to make the decision which players to play, and he has to decide that based on who helps them win games. That's what you're there to do. Be the best player that you can be so that your team can win games. So if you put yourself in the coach's shoes, right, do we want to win? Do we have the best chance of winning with our best players on the field? At what point should we take our best players off the field for whatever reason? Think of it like a video game. Maybe a player's at a 10, they're dominating, and maybe they, the more reps or they get dinged up or whatever, they're down to an 8. Well, them at an 8 still might be better than what you have behind them. So now you have to make a decision. Do we leave them in to win or do we take them out of the game? It's a really hard decision as a former coach. It's a really hard decision to take your best players at any position out of the game because, it can turn on a dime, right? You can be up 3 touchdowns, and next thing you know, it's a tie ball game, and you're like, well, maybe we shouldn't have taken some starters out earlier in the game. And so that's the challenge. You want to rest. You'd love your player. You know how you rest your best players? By being up by 2 or 3 scores and halfway through the fourth quarter. That's how you rest your best players, right? You're up by 14-21 with half a game to go. Maybe you can start taking some guys out a little bit. Better yet, you're up 21-28 points. Now you can really take some players out. But in my opinion, because of my experience, I've coached before where we had a 21-point lead, and literally in 5 plays, it was a tie game. In 5 plays. If you want to look at an NFL game, go back and watch the Chiefs beat the Houston Texans in the playoffs during their first Super Bowl run. They were getting dominated. Was it 28-0 at halftime or almost going into halftime? And before you knew it, I think the Chiefs took the lead 24-21 before halftime, right? So that's how quickly things can change. So as a coach, you're rolling the dice if you don't have your best players in, and you never know when that play is going to happen. That's the thing, right? Maybe it's a short yardage, 3rd and 1, and you're like, why would we give a player a carry here where they're going to load the box and we just need a yard? We can put someone else in for that. But what if that's the one that breaks it for a 60-yard touchdown? You don't know that, right? So the player always wants to play. Christian never wants to come out of the game. He will not, take himself out of the game unless it's been prearranged before the game that the coach wants him to come out. So as a player, that's not your choice. It's not your choice to put yourself in the game or take yourself out of the game. That's the coach's choice. And you do what the coach tells you to do. And I gotta bring this up, man, because it wasn't you guys, but it was on your morning show the other day. There was what I thought was a horrible take, and it's been sitting with me because someone that was being interviewed on the show suggested that there were too many 49ers players that were comfortable sitting on the sideline watching practice.
That was Brian Balding.
I could not agree.
Brian Balding.
And I love Baldy. Yeah. Baldy's a friend. I love Baldy. He has great takes. And I was in broadcasting and in the media for a long time, and I look back and I'm like, some of my takes I don't even agree with now, but that was a bad take, right? And because, like, who are we talking about? Fred Warner, who missed time last year, right? Are we talking about him being happy? We know that's not true. Dre Greenlaw, you want to take him into a dark alley and tell him what you think about him, that he's comfortable when he doesn't practice? Are we talking about Nick Bosa, who just had a surgery? Brian Juszczyk, who broke a finger? Are we talking about Christian, whose picture they used on the tweet? That's what really pissed me off, right? We're talking about the comeback player of the year who had the most touches in the NFL, who we've been talking about reducing the reps to save wear and tear, but then he takes a veteran day. And so who are we talking about, man? Yeah. Who are we talking about? So, it happens. Like, you get caught off guard, you have to answer questions. I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth or interpret what they meant by it, but what an awful take, right? What an awful take to suggest. Because look, and like it's been said about, but this is the NFL, man. Right. Seriously, right? It's not about how upset you look. We're not giving an Academy Award for how upset you look when you're hurt. It's bad enough you're hurt. That's every player's worst nightmare. They're not going to like limp around when the camera turns on them or shed a tear or like wince or. act in pain. Actually, some players do that because they're afraid that people won't think they're upset enough about being hurt. But that's not what it's about, right? Show me a loaf. Show me a business decision on the field. Show me someone that's not going full speed when their team's out there selling out. Now I'm listening.
Right.
Now I'm listening. Right. But don't tell me someone doesn't look upset enough on the sideline and show me a still picture of someone who doesn't look upset enough. This isn't about acting lessons. You spend like your whole life in the NFL, your whole career, collision after collision, earning the respect of your teammates and your coaches and the people that are watching. And people can see determination. So if you show me someone walking off the field and getting a delay of game penalty, or someone not making a tackle, or someone avoiding contact, I'm all ears. But I just thought, to say that about the San Francisco 49ers team with those dudes,
right,
I just thought was a pretty bad take. So, the players are tough, but the take wasn't.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Ed McCaffrey joining us on 95.7 The Game, 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's Christian's father. Hey, how do you evaluate Christian's season last year? And it's hard to do it without looking back 2 seasons. And on the one hand, he was an Iron Man. He did everything they asked. He put up big numbers again. And yet, the yards per carry were down 1.5 yards from 2 seasons ago. Is there any way, and then what happens is, well, has Christian lost a step, or is he not? How do you determine why a running back in particular, may have not run the ball yards per carry like he did a few years prior?
Well, yards per carry has to do with the offensive line mostly, but the offensive line's job has to do with the front they're facing. So the big issue last year was most of their receivers got injured. Most of the receivers from the year before were not on the field. So when you lose receivers and all pro tight ends like George Kittle for a good portion of the season, what does the defense do? What do? I'll ask you guys, right?
Probably load the box.
They load the box against the run, and they double team the running back out of the backfield, right? So if you're running into an 8-man box, which is difficult to run into, it's hard to block everybody. So the offensive line had a really difficult job facing really difficult fronts with which to run into. Yet the 49ers are going to stay committed to the run, which I agree with, because they know they have to it's not even that you get a ton of yards on the ground. If you're not committed to the run, teams will drop into coverage. They need to know you're at least going to try to run, even if you don't have the yards per carry. But that sets up the passing game. And so that would enable Brock Purdy to make some plays down to the field to the receivers that were healthy enough to play. But it also meant the receivers had some more one-on-one looks or softer shells where they didn't have help by one of the safeties because they were in the box trying to stop the run. So that also allowed Christian, they had to pass more. He was leading the NFL in receiving 9-10 games into the season. I'm not talking about running backs, leading the whole entire NFL in receiving in terms of number of catches that far into the season, which is almost unheard of. And so last year was a situation where, unlike the year before that where Christian was hurt and didn't play, a lot of other guys got hurt and Christian was on the field running into 8-man boxes. So you ask me how I view a season, it wasn't the most productive in terms of yards per carry, or maybe not the most productive in terms of going 1,000, although he almost did it and could have, depending on how things had played out at the end there. But I think I'm more proud of him of last season than any season he's ever played, because it was the most difficult it was the most difficult challenge because of the looks that he got from the other teams. Like every game I'd go into it, I'm like, oh, I know they're going to run it, and I know they're loading the box. And I know he's going to get hit at the line or at the line behind the line of scrimmage frequently. Not all the time, but frequently. And you're going to get a lot of touches into very difficult looks and take a lot of hits. But you know what? That's your job. So if that's what it calls for, that's what you do, and that's what he did.